Therefore, on counts 33, 34 and 85 on indictment 1, and on counts 6, 15, 17, 21, 26, 30, 31, 32, 33 and 43 on indictment 2, I impose sentences of life imprisonment pursuant to section 285 of the Sentencing Act 2020. As to the minimum which must be served, if I had been sentencing the defendant to a determinate sentence and taking account of all the aggravating and mitigating factors and reflecting the overall offending, I would have sentenced the defendant on each of those counts to concurrent terms of 27 years imprisonment. Allowing the defendant the full one-third credit to which he is entitled for his guilty pleas reduces that sentence to 18 years concurrent on each of those counts. As the defendant would have served up to two-thirds of that sentence in custody, I fix the minimum term on each of those counts, which he must serve concurrently, at two-thirds of 18 years, that is 12 years imprisonment. The time that the defendant has spent in custody on remand is not automatically deducted from this sentence by the prison authorities. Any time that would have been automatically deducted had this not been a life sentence should be deducted now, and so I reduce those minimum terms by the 197 days that the defendant has spent on remand in custody. Any error in the calculation of the number of days on remand can be corrected administratively. This means that the minimum term that the defendant must serve before the parole board may consider his possible release is one of 12 years. It is very important that the defendant and everyone concerned with this sentence should understand what this sentence means. It is a life sentence. The minimum term is not a fixed term after which the defendant will automatically be released. It is the term that must be served before the parole board can undertake the first review of the case. The parole board will review the risk that the defendant then presents and will consider whether the defendant can properly be released from custody subject to licence at that stage, and if so, on what terms. If and when the defendant is released, he will be subject to licence, and that will remain the case for the rest of his life. If for any reason his licence is revoked, he will be recalled to prison to continue to serve his life sentence in custody. It follows that unless and until the parole board considers that his release is appropriate, the defendant will remain in custody.